J. So that's JETSET_Jill. Also, you can follow me at UK Travel Editor.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey, Dave, it's your round, mate.
Yeah, my throat's drier than the Gobi Desert.
All right. Beers all round, yeah? OK, which one of you jokers has got my wallet?
Well, I haven't got it. God, he'll do anything to save a few quid.
Yeah, that's right. He's always had short arms and long pockets.
Seriously, guys, someone's nicked it from my bag.
If you lose your wallet, passport or tickets while you're on holiday, your mates winding you up will be the least of your worries. Keep your valuable stuff locked up safely when you don't need it. And if you're on the beach or by the pool, only take the cash you need.
For more information, go to gov.uk/knowbeforeyougo or follow us on Facebook or Twitter.
You're listening to The Travel Show with John Guinn on ukhealthradio.com. There'll be more from my remaining two guests later in the show. And from the rest of the show with me talking, it's going to be travel news and events from the last week in the world of travel. Ryanair, the low-cost airline, has unveiled its 2017-18 Customer Experience Improvement Plan, which is part of Year 4 of its Always Getting Better programme. This is including improving service, digital, ancillary and in-flight developments. And the new initiatives will be rolled out over the coming year. And some of the things they'll be coming out with are connecting flights on Ryanair's own network and then with other airlines. Of course, they're saying they're going to have even lower airfares. There's going to be new bases at Frankfurt, Maine and Naples with improved schedules as well. My Ryanair Phase 2, which is an improved profile, offers and incentives. Ryanair Holidays will be rolling out across all markets with 3, 4 and 5 star hotels. Ryanair Rooms will have more partners and more choice. They want to be the Amazon of travel with a new search function. That'll be interesting to see. Into the Blue, which is the bespoke travel content for the Ryanair app, and that's going to be in 5 languages. Express booking, now with pre-saved preferences for faster booking, so you can book within 3 clicks. And auto check-in, both for flights once for both flights once return seats are booked. The Chief Marketing Officer for Ryanair, Kenny Jacobs, I really should have had my glasses on, said, "The success of Always Getting Better programme over the last 3 years has been reflected in ever-increasing load factors and record passenger numbers, which have seen our traffic grow by over 50%. In a year when Ryanair became Europe's largest airline, carrying 120 million passengers, and Ryanair.com became the world's most visited airline website, we are pleased to launch Year 4 of Always Getting Better with an exciting range of initiatives in digital, product and ancillary. As we expand the Ryanair route network, customers will for the first time be able to book connecting Ryanair flights on the Ryanair.com website, with a feeder flight service with other airlines following later in the year. Whilst we continue to innovate, the one thing that won't change will be our low fares, and European consumers will still enjoy the biggest and best choice of destinations with the most on-time flights and a fantastic onboard experience as we grow our fleet, traffic and routes." So this is continuing the Ryanair's development after being the grumpiest airline, and now going to be always getting better and putting back in some of the things which may have been removed in the past once they found that they didn't actually work that well. I haven't flown with Ryanair for 7 or 8 years, so I've no idea if there's been any changes. But if you're a regular passenger with Ryanair, what's your thought on their Always Getting Better programme? As I said, this is the start of Year 4. Have you seen any improvements? Was you thinking about leaving Ryanair, but these changes have changed your mind? Let me know. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned a story about United Airlines and when they refused to allow 2 teenagers to board because they were wearing leggings. That caused a bit of a stink, but they've really gone and done it now. Videos of a passenger being dragged off a United flight in the US has sparked outrage on social media, and the airline is now facing a worldwide boycott despite the head of the airline issuing a second statement apologising over the enforced removal of a passenger. Tens of thousands of potential passengers took to Facebook and Twitter to demand a boycott of the airline, which flies to 339 destinations in 54 countries. And this is according to The Times. There is also a petition calling for the head of the airline to resign, which has attracted almost 20,000 signatures. Anger against the carrier, whose slogan is "Fly the friendlier skies," mounted after the CEO appeared to defend its actions, blaming the passenger for being disruptive and belligerent. Oscar Moons told the staff in an email that the passenger was initially politely asked to deplane, and that then the row erupted only when he refused. However, he issued the second statement saying that, given his deepest apologies for the truly horrific events, saying, "I continue to be disturbed by what happened on this flight, and I deeply apologise to the customer forcibly removed and all the customers on board. No one should ever be mistreated in this way." He went on to say, "I want you to know that we take full responsibility and we will work to make this right." Munns has announced a thorough review of crew movement policies for incentivising passengers in such situations, and how the airline handles oversold flights, with an examination of partnerships with airport authorities and local law enforcement. He pledged to publish the results of the probe by the end of April. However, the Chicago airport cop who involved in the incident has now been placed on leave, and Congress is involved as well, with Congresswoman Jan Suskowski calling on United Airlines to immediately change their policy. She said, "This use of excessive force is completely unacceptable. The response of United Airlines has been brazenly inadequate. Their apology over having to reaccommodate passengers is completely insulting, and their attempt to pass the buck by blaming the Chicago Police Department for the incident demonstrates they do not understand the gravity of the incident. This is far from the end of the story," she added. How about you? Have you joined the boycott of United Airlines? Have you ever flown with them? Do you really not care about the story? Whatever your feelings on this passenger being ejected from the plane, please share your thoughts at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. You can also talk about when you've been refused boarding because it's been oversold. It nearly happened to me once, but I refused because I had somebody meeting me, which couldn't be put off as on a multi-leg tour at the other end. But what about you? Have you taken advantage of an airline bumping you off? How much did you get? Do you think it was worthwhile? Would you do it again? As I said, facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show for all your thoughts on being bumped off airplanes. You can follow me on Twitter at holiday_hut. Earlier in the show, Jill Starry-Grainer was talking about the increase in holidays between Easter this year and last year. MS Bank weren't the only people who released some research over the last few days. ATOL also have released some, and they found that families can spend almost £600 more on unexpected extras. And these aren't the extras I mentioned last week with airports, with the luggage trolleys and the fast-track security queues and plastic bags, but these are things people don't budget for once they're on resort or in resort. So I'll split this interview into two parts. Later on, we'll be finding out from the consumer expert Simon Reed about how you can budget better and what you should look out for. But to start off with, we're going to have the ATOL bit. I wanted to know how ATOL came up with the numbers they were given, the nearly £600 extra people have to find. And then I moved on to what the ATOL is and why it's important. But as I said, the first one we find out is, how did ATOL come up with the research?
So we looked at a number of issues looking around unexpected costs. We surveyed consumers and looked into their habits on when they are spending money on holiday, so looking at the planning for the holiday, but also the spend that they have when they are abroad. And what we have found is that people actually usually spend more than they expected to, and this is why we're putting out these tips out there to make sure people understand how best to budget for their holiday and make sure they don't come back with a bigger bill than expected.
You said you're ATOL. What is ATOL?
So ATOL is a holiday protection scheme. It basically means if you book an ATOL protected holiday, you are covered if your travel company or any of its suppliers collapse. So it means that if your travel company stops trading, you won't lose your money and you won't be left stranded abroad. ATOL will make sure you get a refund, and if you are already abroad on your holiday when the worst happens, it will make sure you can get home at no extra cost.
What sort of holidays are protected by ATOL?
So it's generally for package holidays, but also you can get protection if you book a flight and accommodation with the same company in the same day. So it don't have to be at the same time, but as long as they're booked within the same day, you can be protected. But the traditional package holiday is the mainstay of what's protected under the ATOL scheme.
There are some companies out there, such as virtual private personal assistants, who book holidays for their clients. They use their credit cards and they book the flights with one company and the accommodation with another. On the surface, they look exactly like a travel agent, but they're not, and they don't have to have an ATOL. Why is that?
Well, it all depends on the way that the scheme is booked. There are government laws around what's covered by protection around ATOL. If you have got a booking with separate entities, so different airline and a different accommodation provider, it isn't always protected under the ATOL banner. What we will say to people is if you are not booking an ATOL protected holiday, look at other ways in which you can protect your holiday. So booking with a credit card perhaps, or making sure you've got comprehensive travel insurance. And with travel insurance, make sure you look at the terms of what is covered under the policy that you've booked, because not every single travel insurance policy will cover things like scheduled airline failure or losses that you might face while abroad. So really check the terms and conditions on that.
You said about making sure you get the right insurance and stuff, but there are consumer travel gurus out there who offer travel advice to TV viewers or newspaper readers, and they advise booking everything separately, and they don't go on about the ATOL. They say you can just save money by booking everything separately. They're the sort of people who are usually still called ABTA, the Association of British Travel Agents, so they don't know a lot. But do you have a message for those consumer experts?
I think the main thing for consumers out there is to look at how you want to book your holiday. Now, the package holiday is still the way that a lot of people want to travel. It gives people the peace of mind that they'll be protected by the ATOL scheme in the UK. But other people want to book arrangements a bit more flexibly, and that's absolutely fine, so long as they know what they're getting into. They make sure that they have made some protection arrangements. So, if you want to book a flight directly with an airline and you want to use maybe a villa that belongs to your family or friends, or, you want to book through Airbnb or something like that, so you're booking with two separate entities, that's fine, so long as you know that it's not protected by ATOL, and that you take measures yourself to make sure that it is protected, whether that's booking through credit cards or taking out insurance. So what we want to do is make sure that consumers are informed, that they understand what their rights are, and they know how to check for protection, and also check to make sure that they've got their holiday covered in some way.
To check for protection, some websites have ATOL on it, but they may not actually be issuing any. How can you check if a company is actually authorised to have ATOL on the website?
Yeah, there's a few things to do to make sure that you have checked for protection. So first of all, you can look for the ATOL logo, and that's on company websites, on brochures, on other marketing materials. You can also check the name of a company to check that even if they are displaying that logo, it is a legitimate use of it. So you can go onto caa.co.uk, look for the ATOL section on there, and you can type in the name of the company into a database, and it will tell you if they are a legitimate ATOL company. And the other thing you can do is when you are looking for your holiday, you can check with the travel company that you'll receive an ATOL certificate when you have paid your money towards a trip. If you get an ATOL certificate when you've booked, that's your proof that you are covered by the scheme. So if you're unsure, ask your travel company, am I going to get an ATOL certificate with this booking? If you get that certificate, there's your proof that you are protected.
Okay, so the website is www.caa.co.uk.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, John.
If you're going abroad by plane, boat, or the family car, if you're going abroad for pleasure or business, there's one essential thing to do before you go. Check the expiry date on your European Health Insurance card. You can renew it up to 6 months before it expires. Visit nhs.uk/healthcareabroad or call 0845 606 2030. Bon voyage!
can keep up to date with travel news and leave me a message at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. There'll be some travel tips from Simon Reed, a journalist with later in the show.